Hey everybody, Jeff Bergerson here with Fantasy Golf Insider, bringing you a video. Gonna walk you through our new and improved lineup generator that's on our website. Show you how I go about using it and how I build my lineups every week. First of all, I have used a lot of lineup generators, and this is really my favorite because it's so simple. If you've never worked with a lineup generator before, it may be a little bit tricky to start with, but don't get frustrated because after you work with it for a while, you're going to absolutely love it. You're going to get used to it, and it's going to work so slick for you. Why do I use a lineup generator, and why should you? Well, sometimes I'm building 50, 100, or 150 lineups for a golf slate or a football event, and it simply isn't possible to build that many lineups by hand every week. But beyond that, if you're building, let's say, even 10 to 20 lineups, that's going to give you accurate weightings of exposures that you intend to have, you're going to be biased in some ways. You know, I found when I was building them by hand, I would put in certain guys, and then I'd get down to a certain dollar amount left, and I'd always gravitate toward the same couple of guys. And what ended up happening is I'd have far too much exposure to certain players. I didn't have my intended exposure to what I initially set out to have, and everything just got out of whack. So this lineup generator is going to eliminate that bias, and it's going to give you your intended ownership without any of that bias. So first of all, a word about exposures to players. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. And how do you determine how much of a certain player to own every week? Well, a lot of it depends on what the rest of the field is going to own a player at that given week. For instance, if my favorite player this week for the Desert Classic is Jon Rahm, and I say, well, I'm going to own him on 25% of my teams or a quarter of my teams. The problem with that is we believe, and we're pretty accurate with our projections, that he's going to be owned by pretty much a quarter of the field, 25% of all entrants involved. So if you own him at 25%, you're not going to be overweight at all. You're going to be equal to the field, and thus, you know, it's not going to help even if he does well because you own him equal to the field. So what's really cool about our lineup generator is it brings over our projected ownership from our ownership predictions tool. And you can go view whatever you want to see there too, but it brings it over here, makes it really convenient. So when you're putting in target exposures, you can just look right here and say, we think he's going to be owned at 23%. Generally, I like to try and get to about double the field in my exposure, 2x the field for guys that I'm bullish on. So in this situation, I'm going to want to own Jon Rahm at about 45%. So I just type in 45% there. That's my target exposure for the week in order for him to be overweight. Now on the flip side, and where I also see a lot of folks make mistakes, is being overexposed to a certain player. So let's say, for example, you come into this week and you're high on Aaron Wise. The FGI model ranks him high. You've done your research and you like him a lot. You own Jon Rahm at 45%. Why not own Aaron Wise at 45%, right? Well, the problem with this is he's most likely going to be owned between 8 and 10% of the field. So you don't have to own him on half of your rosters, and actually what will happen is you're kind of overexposing yourself to Aaron Wise when you really don't have to. If you just own, 2x the field, you can own him at 20% or even 25% or 30%. But, if you own him on half your teams and he bombs, and we all know that's possible in golf, happens all the time, we're not going to be overexposed and lighting more of our teams on fire, basically, than we have to. So own him at 2x the field, go 20%. And if he does well, great. You're going to reap the benefits of owning him on twice as many rosters as everyone else in the field. So that's just something to mention there. So make sure you're assigning the right ownership exposures here. Let's go to building some rosters, should we? I'm going to give you an example of what not to do. All right. So I'm going to say I'm going to build 20 teams here. I want to build 20 teams this week. I'll just do that. And this week, let's say I want to own Rahm at 45%. I want to own Justin Rose at 40%, Cantlay 40%, Howell 40%, Hadwin 40, Putnam 40, Mickelson 40, and Wise 40. And I want to generate 20 lineups based on that. What's going on? It's not generating my lineups. Come on. The green generate button is not bright green, and it won't allow me to generate it. And if that's the case, it's user error. You can't generate them based on your inputs here. Now, this is kind of a blatantly obvious example, but you need to spread out. You need to, first of all, look up here where it says total roster spots. So that to build 20 teams, you need 120 roster spots, and based on my inputs, I only have 65. It's not enough. Plus, you obviously can't build lineups based on just the highest price guys. You're going to have to spread your salary around throughout all of the salary to be able to build those teams, to make it possible to fit under the $50,000 salary cap. So this isn't going to work, right? But using this tool up here, you can kind of follow along and see what your exposure is looking like. And as you increase these numbers are going to get closer to the total roster spots of 120, so total salary use are available, and then total ownership available. And you're going to see how that works in a second here. So let me just take these out, and I'm actually going to build my lineups right now for you for the week. And let's say I want to build 50 teams this week. So I'll put 50 in the lineups. What's really cool is we can determine where in the salary range our lineups are going to be built. So we have a max salary cap of $50,000. I'll go all the way up to that. And then we can decide how little salary cap we want to use on certain rosters. Generally, I will go I'm willing to go $1,000 under the cap, leave $1,000 on the table. Some people take this way too far and leave, several $1,000s in salary cap, and I just think you're costing yourself value. If you wanted to do $49,500, I'm fine with that. Leave $500 on the table, but I'm just going to do $49,000. So it's going to build my rosters where the total salary is somewhere in between these two numbers. Also, we talk a lot about aggregate ownership for your rosters and how important it is. Be sure to check out our 3-part GPP series to learn more about that. But this tool allows you to target the aggregate ownership we want. The total ownership that we predict each guy will be in our rosters that we build, added all together, right? And there's a target percentage in the GPP article that we kind of shoot for, that we've seen historically what winners are averaging in aggregate for their winning lineups. So in this particular one, I'm going to go, I'm just going to leave it between 0 and 200. We'll leave it right there. But you could put between 0 and 150 or 120, whatever you want to do. Okay, clear out of there. And then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to assign the ownership to the players that I want to own, so it will generate some rosters for me. And it doesn't take very long. You're going through here, so I like Abraham Ancer, so I'll own him at 25%, approximately 2x the field on him. Let's see, who else do I want? Kazire, Glover, Spawn, see, I'm owning guys throughout all of the salary cap here, so it can build me teams. Because if you own Jon Rahm up top, you're going to have to own the rest of your guys in about the, you'll get one other guy in the 8K range, but the rest are going to have to be in the 7K range. Let's see here. M 32, right? Okay. Hostler. Oops. see, what else do we want here? We want Neiman. I passed Hadley here. What's also cool is if you're looking for a certain player and you can't find them, you can just type them in the search box right there. So Corey Connors, I want 20%. So there we go. Let's see, Jimmy Lovemark. You'll see as I add exposure, it is going to move these numbers up closer to the totals that we're shooting for here. And once we get close, then it will allow us eventually to generate rosters. I have to own 30% Brian Armour to be overweight. We're getting there. Let's see, who did I mess up here? Okay, so that you'll see right there. So I'm pretty close to those desired, and that generate button turned dark green. So that means it's going to allow me to generate teams based upon that. So I'm going to click generate. And this is going to say, this is going to tell me what the actual exposure to it that the lineup generator generated at. So this is really close right now. John Rahm, I now have on 44% of my 50 teams. That's really close. And if it's white here, that means we're within really close amount. If it's yellow, we're within, or we're just outside of the 5% differential mark. Blue is more and red is more as well. So we don't want as much blue and red. We want to get kind of closer. So and also, if let's just say we want to regenerate, we can always just redo this here. Okay, so if we like the looks of that better, we can always just click regenerate. If we don't like the looks of it or it's way off, let's say it generated 25% of John Rahm, just click regenerate to get closer to our desired exposure on the top guys. That is about as close as you get right there for Rahm and Putnam, so I'm pretty good with that. Now from here, if it's off a little bit, we can manually adjust it, and you can do that in two different ways. So with Abraham Answer here, I wanted 25%. It ended up generating 32%. That's actually not that bad, but let's just say I want to adjust it, and I want to move some of that exposure up to Aaron Wise. Balance it out a little bit more. I can click adjust, and looks like I have total available of 14 rosters that I can move. And you just pick right here who you want it to move to. So I can move actually some to Andrew Putnam, or I can move it to Aaron Wise. So let's say I want to move two of my rosters to Aaron Wise. I put in 2, and I click move. Now that 32% for Abraham Answer is going to come down. See? Now it's 28% rather than 32%, but now Aaron Wise went up. So it's kind of a balancing act. What do you want a little bit off? You can choose that. So let's just scroll down. Okay, I don't like this here. CT Pan, I wanted 30%, 44% came out. That's too high. Looks like Patton Kizzire is actually a little bit low. So my target exposure was 30. It actually generated 22. So I want to take some of these CT Pan shares and move them to Patton Kizzire. Now I can use that adjust button, or I can also do this here. I can click lineups and type in CT Pan. And this is going to sort all of my lineups with CT Pan in it. And I can move it to whoever I want. So I usually sort by salary. So here, this lineup, this roster here is using all 50,000 of the cap. I'm going to do it the reverse. So this one has 900 left on the table. CT Pan already has Patton Kizzire on that team, so I can't move it there, right? This roster, CT Pan, doesn't have Patton Kizzire, so I'll click CT Pan, and then I can choose whoever I want to move the shares to. And I said I wanted to move it to Patton Kizzire because I'm a little bit lighter than I wanted. So I click on him, and boom, it does it automatically. Let's do another one here. CT Pan. Oh, I'll switch it to Patton Kizzire. Let's do one more here. CT Pan to Patton Kizzire. Now, I go back to my player exposure, and it's much more in line with what I want. And I could even do a few more shares, and I probably would. Get this CT Pan down a little bit toward 30, Patton Kizzire get at least up to 30, maybe a little bit higher. So I can just keep adjusting it. Here, let's see this one. Cheston Hadley's a little bit light. So let's move a couple shares of Neiman here. I'll go to lineups. I'll do it this way. This actually is kind of my preferred way to do it, although the swap feature is pretty sweet as well. So let's see here. Neiman. Move it to Hadley, and boom, that's changed. Back to players. And everything looks pretty good. I mean, I wanted 5% on Michael Thompson. I got him on 4%. Nothing really seems out of line. Okay, well, let's see. What's this one? I wanted 10% of Burgoon. I got 2. That's a little bit light. A little bit heavy on Martin Laird, so I could move this down to Burgoon here. Move a couple shares to Burgoon. Move those there. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty close. We're never going to get exactly perfect on all of these. So those exposures look pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with that. So that's what I'm going to go with. When I'm done, I do not click the generate button again. It will redo everything that we've already got into place. It'll get rid of everything that we're happy with, that we've manipulated by hand. I've done this about 100 times myself, so I'm going to save you so much grief. Do not click that generate button again. Okay, we're done. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to click this export 50 lineups button, and it's going to create the CSV in Excel with all of our rosters. Okay, so we're going to save that. Okay, and then we'll go over to DraftKings. We're going to go to lineups. We're going to go to upload lineups. We're going to go to upload CSV, and we're going to have that lineup. And we're going to pull that over, and it's going to load it in there, and then we can enter whatever contests we want with those uploaded CSVs. So it's super, super easy. I hope that it's going to save you an incredible amount of time. Give it a try. I absolutely love it. It saves me so much time. It has no bias. It works strictly off your exposures and allows you to really compete with the big boys in GPPs, in DFS, by giving you lineups that you can build around your core. Gives you the best chance at winning large field GPPs. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to email us at info@fantasygolfinsider.com. Otherwise, enjoy the lineup generator, and best of luck to you.